There is absolutely no reason why anyone wanna pull for yoimiya. Except, well, why are you shooting at the water, man? Now, of course, I'm talking about from a meta point of perspective. If you're a waifu player, you really enjoy yoimiya personality, you really enjoy her look, you enjoy maybe her gameplay, you enjoy her voice actor, aka Toza Karin, then of course feel free to pull for her. I'm not saying you cannot pull for yoimiya if you like her. But, as a meta perspective, there's absolutely no reason to pull for yoimiya, and that's what this video is going to be focused on. Now, I'll be honest, even though multiple times I have said that yoimiya is pretty bad, she's actually not that bad, in a vacuum at the very least. Yes, yoimiya can include a bit, and yeah, yoimiya can have alright performance, but the problem is that that's the best she can do. The best yoimiya can do is just ditch out alright performance, and to me, for a 5-star character, that's not good enough. And that's why it's bad. It's bad for your value, it's bad for your primo, it's bad for your wallet, it's not worth pulling. Now again, I rate character based on value, aka how good are they for your primo, because to me, I think the number one most important aspect in the gacha game is, should I spend my primo on this character or not? Whether it be through your wallet or if you're a free-to-play player and you saved up all your hard-earned primo, the number one question you have to ask yourself is, do I want to spend primo on these characters? And yoimiya just does not generate enough values, and therefore yoimiya is looking to be a 2 out of 5. Honestly, the fact that I said there's no reason to pull for yoimiya kind of even make me consider to putting her in 1 out of 5. Again, not because she is weak, just simply because there's no reason to pull for yoimiya, and she generates no value for your account at all. The number one reason why yoimiya is terrible and doesn't generate enough value for your account is simply because there are way too many pyro characters in the game right now. We have Hu Tao, Diluc, Xiangling, Yanfei, Bennett, yoimiya, and then we have Klee, which I represent using Sayus, since unfortunately I couldn't get Klee. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, what do yoimiya do better than these characters to justify myself spending primo on? And the answer is, well, not a lot. In fact, there's almost none. Let's start with yoimiya normal attack and her elemental skill, because yoimiya elemental skill simply empower her normal attack and infuse it with pyro and make it do more damage. Now, yoimiya is very simple to play. The only thing you have to do is left click. You can't possibly mess up the yoimiya playstyle, you can't possibly mess up her combo, because once again, the only thing you have to do is left click. So to some extent, this is a good thing about yoimiya, because yoimiya is probably the simplest character to date. So it's very friendly, or more friendly than other characters for lower skill player. Now, like other stuff in the game, yoimiya normal attack have something called the internal cooldown, or later referred to as the ICD on it. That means yoimiya cannot properly trigger reaction on every single one of her attack, and therefore she will be slower in terms of breaking shield, but more importantly is that she will not be able to utilize Vaporize very well, unlike other pyro characters. But with that being said, the good news about that is that since yoimiya doesn't utilize reaction that well, and since she have no AoE potential, you don't have to care. You don't have to care about reaction at all. You don't have to care about AoE at all, since, well, she can't do it either. So again, yoimiya is absolutely the easiest character to play, much easier than Diluc, since you just don't care about anything except left clicking. But there is a problem. First of all, looking at yoimiya normal attack string, you can see that the 5th hit have a lot more damage than the 1st hit or the 2nd hit. The last hit here do 167%, and the 1st and the 2nd only do 100%. So the 5th hit is 1.5 times the damage when compared to these hits. Additionally, remember the number one rule of trying to do vaporize damage is you want to vaporize a big number instead of vaporizing a small number. So when you're vaporizing the 1st hit, you're only vaporizing one of these 2 arrows, which is 56%. On the other hand, when you're vaporizing the 5th hit, you're vaporizing the biggest number possible, which is 167%. So what that means is that you really want to follow through and get your entire normal attack string out and get to the 5th hit. And that's present a big problem in actual combat. Taking a look again, you will notice that Yoimiya normal attack make her stationary. You cannot move during her normal attack, and in order to move, you have to dodge. But when you do dodge, you realize that it will cancel your auto attack string and reset you back to the first one. So for example, here it's 1, 2, 3, and I dodge, and go back to 1, 2, 3, dodge, 1, 2, 3. So that means I'm not completing my entire attack string, and therefore I'm unable to access my big damage hit, which is on the last one. So again, in order to access your big damage hit, you need to do the entire string and get to this attack right here. Anytime you dodge before that, you will cancel dodge, 1, 2, 3. So that means I'm not completing my entire attack string, and therefore I'm unable to access my big damage hit, which is on the last one. So again, in order to access your big damage hit, you need to do the entire string and get to this attack right here. Anytime you dodge before that, you will cancel your attack string. Other pyro characters like Hu Tao have something I like to call on-demand damage. What that means is your damage come out on your demand. Anytime that you do a charge attack on Hu Tao, you will do 214%, no more and no less. As long as you left click, you will do 240%. Now, of course, you will say, oh, what about the loop? You have to get through the entire string to get to the big hit. That is true, but his elemental skill is what I like to call on-demand damage. Anytime that you press your Yi, you will be able to get this damage out. And then, of course, you press Yi again, and it doesn't matter if you interrupt it and if you dodge, as long as you press Yi again within a certain amount of time, which is very easy to do so, you will get the entire damage out. And this is not true for Yoimiya, because Yoimiya only damage source is, well, most of her damage source is from her normal attack. So you need to make sure to follow through the entire string in order to properly get your damage out. What that actually means is that Yoimiya damage is actually dependent on shield, because shield will let you avoid dodging, and therefore you will be able to follow through with your normal attack string and getting that big damage number on your 5th hit. Hu Tao is often paired with a shield because she has survivability issues and therefore require defensive option. But that means if you play well enough and you don't need defensive option, you don't need the shield. A shield is not required on Hu Tao at all. But this is not the case for Yoimiya. On Yoimiya, if you dodge, you will lose a lot of damage, and therefore you can't really dodge, and thus you really need the shield. Now, while Yoimiya is semi-ranged, that means she do have range advantage. For example, it's easier for you to get Bennett buff since you can just stand on the Bennett burst and then attack from range. But again, Yoimiya range is not so big that it will let you stay at a very far distance and completely avoid every single attack. And again, her range is not even as big as Yanfei. So when fighting an enemy like these agents, you will get into melee range and therefore get hit. Now, speaking of range, what's worth mentioning is that Ganyu actually have infinite range. So on character like Ganyu, it is possible to keep your distance and not requiring a shield. That's not the case with Yoimiya. Speaking of Yoimiya, Yoimiya also actually have a elemental burst. Her elemental burst dominate about 20% of her damage, so it's not a ignorable portion. Now, what's worth mentioning about her elemental burst is that you want to start the fight by doing a elemental burst first and then entering your elemental skill. So you want to do a Q into a E combo, not the other way around. Once again, Sandy from Yoimiya main has done a lot of math on the QE versus EQ conflict, which I've checked it out and personally can verify that it is indeed correct. But the easier way to understand is that by doing a EQ, you delay your elemental burst by approximately 10 seconds into the fight. And for a Abyss fight that is 1 minute or 30 seconds, that means you lose out on an entire elemental burst. Normally, you can expect to be able to cast 3 or 4 elemental bursts in a 1 minute 30 Abyss fight. And so by losing out an entire elemental burst, that is a significant portion damage that you're going to be missing. Yoimiya Ascension 4 passive will give her teammate 10% attack boost, and if you have stack from your elemental skill, then you can get another 10% attack boost. But what people don't realize is that even if you start your fight with a Q and then followed by a Yi, you can still get the stack and get 20% attack boost on your next cycle. And it's much better to start your fight with an elemental burst off so that you can immediately get 10% attack bonus for your teammate, as well as getting a extra elemental burst off. With that being said, the 4-piece Shiminara, because it drains your energy, it doesn't let you start the fight with your elemental burst off, and so therefore you lose an entire elemental burst worth of damage, and you also lose 10% attack on your teammate on the first cycle, and therefore it is just not worth it. People keep trying to make this work, and no, it does not work unless somehow someone can provide me with a 3-page essay containing a math PhD thesis explaining why Shiminara set is better. It is not. Speaking of Yoimiya elemental burst, her elemental burst have internal cooldown and it does not snapshot. Why that is the case, I have no idea. Normally deployable skills should snapshot, and for the one that have slow ticking rate, like for example Rosaria elemental burst, they do not come with ICD. Some of the really fast one also don't have ICD, for example on the Xiangling Tornado. And once again, almost every single deployable in the game snapshot. For example, Kaya snapshot, Rosaria snapshot, Xiangling snapshot, Beidou snapshot, I don't know, the list go on. For magical reason, Yoimiya have ICD and does not snapshot. It's kinda like MiHoYo is trying on purpose to butcher these characters, because I don't see how you could possibly forget both of those things when every other character you remember to fix it. And of course, combine it with Yoimiya normal attack, which are also single target and auto targeted. Yoimiya have absolutely zero AoE potential. And this is a huge problem for Abyss, because Abyss are always AoE focused, especially the current Inazuma Abyss. For example, with my Xiangling and my Chao, which have really good AoE, I can quickly hit both of these agents and very quickly burst them down. And this is only possible because AoE. Let's suppose theoretically that your Yoimiya is not strong enough and therefore you cannot beat Chamber. Now, I'm not saying this is the Yoimiya issue. This happened to everyone, this happened to every player. Some player just couldn't beat Abyss Chamber with their current characters. But the thing about Yoimiya is that let's suppose you couldn't beat the Chamber on your Yoimiya. Well, what can you possibly do to help you fix that issues? Because Yoimiya playstyle is so simple, because the only thing you do is left click. You can't possibly improve on your playing style. You can't possibly left click harder and do more damage. That does not happen. On character like Hu Tao, you can try to hit multiple targets and therefore get more damage out. You cannot possibly get more damage out by left clicking harder on Yoimiya. So that means the only option is to simply get better stat, get better weapon, and get better auto fight. That's not a very realistic thing for a lot of people. You cannot just tell people, ah yeah, just go wield a 5-star weapon. That doesn't really work. I would like to quickly introduce you guys to this play made by a Chinese Diluc player. Look at how he can hit both of the samurai at the same time the entire way through. Because Diluc have really, or not really good, but decent amount of AoE, he is capable of hitting both of these targets the entire way. So this is something you could do and you can try to improve on when your Diluc doesn't cut it. You can say, let me find a way so that I can make sure I hit both targets at the same time. And again, this does not happen on Yoimiya, because Yoimiya have almost no room for improvement. If anytime you say the word AoE or area of effect, Yoimiya automatically lose to any other character in the game. That's including Keqing. Artesian, the head of figure crafter of Keqing Ming, have done the math, and yeah, Keqing beat Yoimiya as long as you're fighting in AoE environment, even at only 2 targets. What you guys have to understand about AoE is that suppose I have 2 targets, I'm doing 100 damage to each target at once. That means the total damage I'm doing is 200 damage. And then if I have 3 targets, then I'll be doing 300 damage in total. Now for Yoimiya, because she is strictly single target, what that means is that for Yoimiya to match. And at the moment, Yoimiya just does not do that. In fact, Yoimiya doesn't even do more damage single target. And if I'm fighting 3 targets and I'm doing 100 each, I'm doing 300 damage in total. So Yoimiya need to do triple the amount of damage of me doing to single target in order to match. And at the moment, Yoimiya just does not do that. In fact, Yoimiya doesn't even do more damage single target. Of course, a very common argument that people bring is like, if Yoimiya have AoE issues, I will simply bring good teammates that have good AoE to fix her issues. Now, yeah, that you could do, but team comp is actually by far the biggest letdown for Yoimiya. The problem is that there's no team where Yoimiya is actually optimal in, and so therefore, Yoimiya does not belong to any team. For example, let's say in the current Abyss, you want good AoE, very commonly people will bring Beidou to bring that good AoE. And yes, this is something you could do. You could use Beidou to carry Yoimiya. But since Beidou is doing the AoE damage anyway, what and why do you need Yoimiya here? Because, well, Yoimiya is not contributing to the AoE and you want AoE. What that means is you can easily switch Yoimiya out for any other option and it will actually be better. Switching Yoimiya out for Sucrose will result in dramatically better results since Sucrose can do AoE, Sucrose can do PV Shred, Sucrose can do a lot of damage with Swirl, and in fact, this team right here is just way better than Yoimiya team. The same basically happened to any other team. For example, let's say, oh, I want to specialize in single target, so let me bring Yoimiya with Xing Shields to do base price damage. When you quickly realize that in this team, instead of bringing Yoimiya, you can just bring Hu Tao. Or even better is you can bring Xiangling. Now you have good AoE and good single target. If you're confused why this team have better single target damage than Yoimiya, that is because Xiangling have snapshotting. Xiangling can snapshot both Kazuha and Bennett buff, and therefore utilizing their buff to max potential. It is true that Bennett, Kazuha, Yoimiya can do very well, because Bennett and Kazuha are super amazing support. But the problem is that Yoimiya is not utilizing them to the full potential. In order to utilize them for the full potential, you want to use something like Xiangling. So while Yoimiya would love to have Kazuha and Bennett would much rather kick Yoimiya out and bring in the Xiangling. Now there is a way to make Yoimiya kinda semi-good, and that is simply to pair every single good support in the game with Yoimiya. That is including Bennett, Kazuha, and Zhongli. In this case, switching Yoimiya out for other characters doesn't really net you better results since those depend on reaction, and in this team, there's no reaction being done. However, because Yoimiya doesn't depend on reaction that much since she's incapable of doing so, this team here is actually pretty good for Yoimiya. The sad news here is that since you take away every single good support in the game, there's not a lot of team you can run on the other side. The best case scenario is you could run Morgana on the other side, or maybe even like the whatever this team is, Morgana, whatever. Which, you know, of course doesn't depend on these top tier support. But to be frank, even when you pair all three top tier support in the game with Yoimiya, you're much better out by taking two of these out and just playing a better team. So even when you pair all three top tier support in the game with Yoimiya, the performance is only slightly better or even equal to compared to like a traditional team that doesn't take all three top tier support. Requiring all three top tier support in the game in order to make Yoimiya kind of shine, it's not what I would like to define good or optimal at all. People always love to comment, Genshin Impact is a team game, you have 4 party members. You are wrong. Genshin Impact, yes, it is a team game, but you have 8 party members. Taking all 3 support in the game leave your second party with almost no choice. So again, unless you happen to have something like Morgana that does not depend on the support, this is not what I'd like to consider a optimal solution. Now, although there is actually a secretly good support for Yoimiya, and that is not quite Jean, but rather Consolation to Jean, which give attack speed to Yoimiya. Since Yoimiya don't care about reaction that much, and most importantly, her attack have no hit lag, being a archer, she actually scales really well with attack speed, and this is by far the best way of getting her damage up. With 15% attack speed grants from Jean, you can actually see about a 20% damage increase on character like Yoimiya. But this is not something I can recommend to player simply because it's either locked behind GNC 2 or it's locked behind Son of the Broken Pine, which I guess you could put on your Sayu. Both of those are luxury items that most players will not have, and at the current... But of course this is not something we can depend on. We can't pull for a character right now, today, hoping that MiHoYo will release a character in the future, aka attack speed support, that work with Yoimiya. That's just not something you can depend on. That's literally like buying Bitcoin, that's like buying GME and hope that it will go up in the future. You could just be playing or buying characters or rolling for characters that are already known to be good. For example, go build your Xiangling, please. Overall, Yoimiya is not actually terrible, but when you compare to other pyro character, then yeah, Yoimiya is pretty terrible. Especially the one that you have right now in your account for free, aka Xiangling. Xiangling absolutely outperformed Yoimiya in every single way, and so there's no reason to ever play Yoimiya, and there's no reason to pull for Yoimiya, at least from a meta point of perspective. As powerful as Xiangling is, it doesn't make sense to me that a free 4-star character outperform a pay 5-star character in every single way. And so I just cannot recommend people to pull for these characters, nonetheless to spend money for these characters. Like for example, with my Xiangling being built already, not even level 90, not even crowned, but with my Xiangling being built already, Yoimiya is another character that is permanently going to be sitting on the bench and permanently never seeing the light again. So I just don't understand why they gave Yoimiya such an amazing voice actor, aka Tosaka Rin, and then now we have all the Japanese brothers super hype over these characters, and then they butcher her kid. Anyway, at the end of the day, you should be the one who make the decision if you should be spending the money or Primo Gem for Yoimiya or not. This kind of video is simply to make sure that you understand what kind of product you're buying yourself into. You know, some people like to spend their money after watching one commercial, and some people like to spend their money after they have carefully reviewed it, every single like internet reviewer, and so it just depends on you. I don't teach you how you spend your money, I don't tell you how you spend your money. So if you want to pull, go for it. Again, Yoimiya, as a personality character, Yoimiya is a really lovely character. She have a really nice voice actor. I'm just really sad that this is how they treated her. Maybe they thought that since she'll sell really well anyway, so they make her weak on purpose. So when a stronger character come out, people will pull again and spend more money. I really hope people properly think about what Yoimiya issues are and understand why she's weak, aka that Yoimiya is being outclassed by every other pyro character in the game. Let's say Yoimiya is your favorite waifu. Are you really okay of them making your waifu worse than a free 4-star character that is available to everyone? Personally, if I was Yoimiya, or if Yoimiya was my favorite waifu, I'll be mad that she's weak. I don't understand why people blindly go and claim that Yoimiya is super OP even if you really like her, because that doesn't help anyone. I feel like people should really, the people who truly love her should be the one who is properly understanding her and understanding that she has issues and acknowledging that's all the issues. Well, this video is getting really long, and even though there's a lot more things I want to talk about, I guess I'll end it here. Thanks for watching as always. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.